I've been playing a lot of Black Ops 2 Zombies lately, getting to know the DLC maps that I didn't play back in the day because Transit and Die Rise killed my spirit. And now I feel like it's time to give my potentially spicy takes on some map rankings. So buckle in and get some Tums because you're gonna need them. I'm also trying a new idea where I wing it. Normally I script these out ahead. I thought, well, let's give it a try to go off the cuff. And if it becomes a disaster, I'll go back to scripted. A couple notes while we're getting started here. I don't really value Easter eggs at all in Black Ops 2 because there's only one that you can do solo. Technically, yes, you can do the Richtofen side of Transit solo, but it requires insanely good RNG and is clearly not intended to be finished solo, so we'll just pretend it can't be done. Second, my main focus is on general playability and high round / survivability. I'll also take into account the setup, the atmosphere, wonder weapons, wall weapons, etc, etc. Whatever helps support my narrative instead of being objective. To all you watching, go ahead and leave your rankings in the comments, and feel free to give me plenty of hate speech for my rankings. Starting at the bottom of the barrel, we've got Bus Depot. I decided to include the survival maps separately just because they do exist. Bus Depot is here mainly by virtue of not really having much to it. You know, there's no perks, no pack-a-punch, no power, just you, your gun, and the mystery box. There's really not much to this map. One of the downsides, of course, is that the pit that you would find in Transit, where the bus would normally be, is covered up, so it makes it tighter, harder to survive, and you're overly reliant on the Ray Gun Mark II, much more so than any other map. The atmosphere is good, of course, it's Black Ops 2, and the Transit areas have good atmospheres, but there's really not enough to this map to really even consider me playing it enough, and that's why it's at the bottom. Alright, surprisingly, when I've been streaming, I've gotten a lot of comments that Transit is underrated, people love Transit. I think Transit is a lot of fun when you play it couch co-op. Playing it solo is a pain in the ass. Let's start with the good though. The atmosphere is awesome. I think that the Transit maps might have some of the most underrated and under-commented atmosphere in any Zombies map, but that's about where the good stuff ends. I do like the bus, actually. I don't like having to wait for it, but I do like the bus mechanic. Let's talk about what stinks, though. The map is enormous, so if you go down, you have to go all the way around finding your perks again. If the mystery box moves, and you will need the mystery box because the wall weapons are terrible in this map, you will have to go find that. There's no really good shortcuts to getting around the map without the bus either. You know, you can burn your ass off in the lava, you can go through some paths to get from one point to another, but even the teleporting fast travel is terrible. The setup isn't particularly interesting, though I don't really hate on having to build the power, honestly, or pack-a-punch when you get that door open. Getting the pack-a-punch door open itself is a whole nother kerfuffle. I mean, how many times have you put down the turbine and that door just doesn't open? It's really hard to get it open solo in my experience. A lot easier co-op, of course, while someone can just camp at the bank. The denizens are kind of cool looking, but annoying as hell to deal with. Avogadro's not too bad. I think he's kind of interesting, but you know, it is a little annoying that he can only be taken out via melee. The lava's, I understand what they did with the lava and the fog, but it just is a little too much at times. Let's not forget the wonder weapon of this map, the jet gun. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, the jet gun's actually amazing, you just need to do it right, blah, blah, blah. Listen, you have to run all the way across the map to collect 4 parts, because you can only hold 1 at a time. Then you have to build the jet gun, which, you know, whatever. But then the thing breaks after only a short amount of time usage and takes forever to cool down. Not to mention it only cools down when you have it out and you're super slow and vulnerable. And then if it breaks, you have to build it all over again. Just not worth building at any circumstances unless you're doing the Easter egg. I may have a lot of fond memories playing this on the couch with my sister or my then girlfriend, but I can't say I have any memories that I will keep playing Transit solo. Next up, we got the bonus map. We have Nuketown Zombies. This is actually a really hard one for me to rank. I could have put it lower than Transit or higher than my next one, but it's just too inconsistent in my opinion. Sometimes you'll get Juggernog as your second machine after Quick Revive, sometimes you have to wait to the end, sometimes you won't get Pack-a-Punch forever. It's just a little too inconsistent. The atmosphere is good, the wall guns aren't particularly great, but I guess they're at least more centralized and quicker to get to than Transit, as are the mystery box locations. But I don't know about you guys, I feel like the Nuketown Zombies Zombies has the worst mystery box RNG ever. I'm constantly getting garbage like the S12, the War Machine, the RPG, and nothing useful at all. I'm not even talking about the Ray Gun Mark II. I'm thinking of good assault rifles like the Galil or the M27, which is a bonus point for this map as it's an exclusive. And there are a couple of cool guns like the LSAT. But ultimately, great atmosphere, kind of too inconsistent for my liking, and definitely a real challenge. If you like challenges, this is probably a better map for you than Bus Depot, but really, I don't think it's a great map altogether. Probably the weakest of the bonus maps. Though I will say the zombie eyes turning blue in the sound quotes from the Moon Easter egg as you're going along the rounds are definitely awesome. Cool to see that this takes place at the same exact time as Moon. Alright, here we go with the true spiciest take of the entire video, so strap yourselves in. Next up, fourth from the bottom, I'm putting Mob of the Dead.
What the fuck?
That's right. In most people's top 5 and a lot of people's favorite map of all time, I don't agree at all. Now, let's talk about the good first, right? Atmosphere, story, and characters, top notch. There's absolutely no question that Mob of the Dead is a top 5 in these aspects, though I do have to say the characters don't really have a big variety of quotes like some other ones. For instance, if you pick up the shield, a new zombie shield, every single time you get the same exact quote from the character you're playing as, which is completely annoying. Now let's talk about actual gameplay though. Mob of the Dead is an extremely slow map when you're setting up, as well as trying to get to a certain round. In my instance, I've been trying to get a lot of round 50s on this map. Rounds 15 to 35-ish are actually pretty quick and pretty fun. You know, you just hang out in that room next to Double Tap. But that's about when the vitrolic withering starts to fall off and doesn't really become good, making it honestly one of the worst wonder weapons in the game. Then you have to mostly rely on the cafeteria strategy, which is super slow. You're constantly just throwing your Hell's Redeemer at zombies, you're using the acid trap. It's so slow, and unless you have the Ray Gun Mark II, there's not really a way to speed it up. Getting set up is also a bit of a slog. You know, you have to traverse the whole map. It's super expensive. Multiple 2,000 point doors, 1,500 point doors, and places you specifically have to go through in ghost mode. Really no variance in how you play on this map. You can't really change anything different. It's pretty tight, though there is room to move around. So it's kind of like every game is the exact same. And even for someone as original and boring as me, it gets tiring. Another big strength of Mob of the Dead is that the weapons they introduced were super cool. The M1927, aka Tommy gun, is a great point machine. The Uzi is a high rate of fire menace. And the Death Machine is super cool, even if it's awfully impractical because it makes you slower than me after I've been stuck in molasses for an hour. And not to mention the Hell's Redeemer / Retriever is pretty cool. Cool little throwable, becomes infinite damage when you upgrade it. So honestly, when it comes to weapons, Mob of the Dead really nailed it. Thinking about special enemies, the Warden is pretty interesting, or Brutus for BO2 Purist, but at the same time he gets completely clapped by the Ray Gun Mark II should you get it, or even the Executioner thanks to my tips from some of my viewers in some of my recent streams. He's just not super threatening while also being extremely annoying, being able to lock down the perk machine's box and so on, as well as shaking your screen, making you want to throw up if you have issues with motion sickness. The pack camo is really good, of course. Maybe that falls into aesthetics, so I guess bonus points for that. But all in all, I really don't think I would feel right ranking this map higher just to appease those of you who do love the map, because honestly, I don't. Next up, we got Farm. Nice little farm section of Transit. Now, it's in the middle between Bus Depot and Town as far as the features go. Perk machines, mystery box, no power, no pack-a-punch machine, making it kind of an in-between, like I said. Farm is nice because it's, you know, it's relatively compact with enough room. You can manipulate spawns a little if you're finding it hard by sitting in the barn itself. But really, big problem is no pack-a-punch, so you're relying heavily on the Ray Gun Mark II and maybe even the Ray Gun at first. So there's not really a whole lot to this map, but I've always had good memories of training here. I think it's atmospherically the best part of Transit as well. It's creepy. There's not really a ton of lava or redness. It's just mostly fogginess and makes for great creepiness factor. And it reminds me of where I grew up, being a little country hick. Not much to say about Farm. Yeah, just about middle of the pack. Okay. If you asked me to make this video last year, I would 100% put Die Rise as the worst map. Worst map on the game, maybe worst map in Zombies history. But what can I say? My views on the map have actually considerably softened over the last year. Yeah, it's a really easy map. You can get to round 50 in about an hour on like 5 different locations, and the wall guns are amazing, which is a pro in my opinion. You know, this is the map that introduced the AN-94, the SVUAS, the PDW on the wall. So the only downside to that, of course, being that you really have no incentive to hit the mystery box at all in this map. This liquefier is one of the best wonder weapons ever, which is a pro and a con, because when you couple that with the differences in elevation and whatnot, you're pretty much invincible. You shoot one zombie and you can kind of end a round, depending on what round you're on. It also introduced Who's Who, more like Who's Poo, because it's one of the worst perks of all time. I don't think it could have been any worse than it is. Seriously, if they just spawned you with at least the current gun you're holding, it would have made it such a better perk. Or maybe even made it so if you fall, you don't take any damage. You're a ghost after all. Why the hell do you take fall damage? But I also think there's a very creepy vibe to this map that's often underappreciated as well. People claim it's a samey looking map, kind of boring and gray, but this is a world that's been hit by nukes, societal collapse, not that there's enough people to have a society left anyway. And especially when you're playing a Stullinger, you hear those extra creepy zombie voices that make me want to sleep with the light on and pee myself on a regular basis. Now, let's not be all completely rosy about Die Rise, okay? Let's talk about the biggest problem, waiting for the elevators. There's no doubt that having to wait for those elevators to get up to the roof on certain parts of the map or wait for the perk you want is awful. One of the worst things that they've done on this game. This is only slightly mitigated by being able to pick up an elevator key. What if that key could just be used all the time and was not a one-use item? It would make it so extremely good. I wouldn't say overpowered, it would definitely have helped. I don't know why actually they didn't even think to do that. I don't think that the special zombies, the jumping jacks, are particularly bad or good or anything. They're just kind of there. You do of course get a free perk if you kill them without missing or by meleeing them or trample steaming them, which is kind of nice, but I tend to avoid this personally so I don't end up with the dreaded Who's Who and end up killing myself trying to save myself, you know? I don't know what they could have done to this liquefier to make it not technically a mistake on this map, but I just don't think there was any way around it. Maybe if they put it on a different map, maybe on Transit or something, but it was just too good for this map with all the elevation changes. All right, in the bronze place podium spot, we've got one of the community's darlings that you're not able to talk negatively about despite its flaws, but I still gave it top 3 nonetheless. That's Origins.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Now, Origins does have a lot going for it. The aesthetic is pretty cool despite it being pretty gray in the BO2 version, though it does look significantly cooler in the snow, no pun intended. You know, you got the Templar zombies, you got the giant robots, you got the World War I battlefield. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. The wonder weapons, of course, some of the greatest. The staves are decently well balanced. Well, maybe not well balanced, but at least they all have their uses. Even the fire staff, which disconnects you from the server. They're all pretty good. They've all got decent quests to make. I just wish the map wasn't as big as it was. I think the Panzer Soldat is not too bad, honestly. Not a huge fan of the hook, but he causes you to have to replay your strategy, at least for a bit. Except when you have a staff or boomhill that you can completely delete him pretty quickly, but that's okay. Going to the Templar rounds, I'm kind of mixed with them, honestly. Yeah, it's nice to get a max ammo if you kill all the Templars attacking a generator, but at the same time, it'll really bite you in the ass if you can't get to whatever generator due to whatever. I think the setup process on Origins is honestly a little too long. Like I said, the map is huge, and having to get the 6 generators on, as well as building the base form of a staff, and on top of upgrading it, is a little excessive. And especially if you're trying to get all of them for whatever reason. Don't forget the mud. The mud is the dumbest thing about Origins. It's honestly on par, if not worse to me, than the transit lava, which maybe it's sacrilege because it doesn't doesn't hurt you, but it does slow you down a good amount, and it's really only mitigated with stamina. There are, of course, a ton of unique weapons on Origins compared to other maps, like the Ballista, the Scar H, the Scorpion, and even the starting pistol, the Mauser, which becomes beastly when you pack-a-punch it. The only downside is, well, you don't really need to hit the box on Origins unless you have Mule Kick, and in my case, I tend to just try to get the Ray Gun Mark II, because, well, it's the Ray Gun Mark II, and not one of the cool unique guns. Well, I think the robots in Origins are cool. Having to watch out for them stomping around is a pet peeve of mine. I'm really not a fan of elements that are not on the playing field killing you, like the robot feet here or the dragon fire from Gorod Krovi on Black Ops 3. I just do not like elements like that. I think they're bullshit. I think they don't really belong because they result in cheap deaths. It's probably unfair of me to even include this, but I think the community's behavior is a big off-putting factor to me too. You are not allowed to criticize this map at all, or you will get completely butt-boned by people online. Downvoted on Reddit, bitched at in the comments. You're not allowed to just like this map. It's not in your top 5. You are the worst thing to happen to humanity, and that's only a slight exaggeration. Why can't we all just like what we like? Why is it okay to criticize like Dreisendrache these days, but not Origins, or Mob, or Shadows? But that's enough of that rant. All in all, Origins is a pretty good map. Not perfect, not in my top 5 maps, but hey, I'll give it my top 3 in Black Ops 2. Let's talk about the runner-up here. Town. I know, I put Town above Mob, Town above Origins, sue me. Let's talk about this effect of this map. This map is probably the one that held the game together when it came out, at least from a Zombies side of things. People allegedly hated Transit, and then they eventually hated Die Rise, so Town was there to be the map of choice. People weren't gonna bust their balls on Bus Depot or pick some corn and farm for some reason, so they played Town. Town is a fantastic map with great training opportunities. There's at least a couple spots I can think of. You know, the setup's not too bad. You can just grab the MP5 and get enough points for Jug and your other perks. And then you got the mystery box and Pack-a-Punch. You do have to deal with the transit lava, but that is not nearly as bad, I'd say, except for when you're Pack-a-Punching, of course, as you're watching your screen burn into oblivion while you're doing that. Town's great for lots of challenges like the Pack-a-Punch challenge, or maybe even a weapon-only challenge like the SMR or the M14 or Olympia or something. Just a super solid map. There is no wonder weapon except for the ray gun, unless of course you have the buried DLC, which adds the ray gun Mark II in there for an extremely rare chance, and it's absolutely a godsend. It's just so nice of a map to train and be simple and not be too convoluted, as well as having a great atmosphere much like all the other transit maps. You can see the fog in the distance, and including a foggy church, which I always like to see. There is a downside and a dilemma that you really don't want to get speed cola on this map, because opening the bank can really screw up your training. Instead, you usually want to run with stamina up instead, as well as, you know, revive Jug and double tap, but of course it's always up to personal preference. If you've got the skill, you probably won't mind it. So Town really just is a great survival map to just enjoy, kick back, get to whatever round really without too much stress of setting up. You know, no problems. All right, so if you can count, and if you know Black Ops 2, you know there's only one map left. And of course, my number 1 top-ranked Black Ops 2 map is Buried. Now, of the latter 3 maps in the game, Buried is probably the least well-regarded by those who are a little sweaty online. People don't like it as much as Mob or Origins due to it being a little on the easy side, at least on the early rounds. But let me tell you this, the atmosphere is top-notch. Western town underground in Africa. While it doesn't make any sense, I don't care. It's there. You really feel like you're running through a town and not just a zombies map like, say, in the Cold War maps that kind of have similar ideas. You've got the good old giant Arthur, or Leroy as everyone else likes to call him, who wanders around aimlessly and can do great things for you like nail down the mystery box, hold a zombie, break some barriers which gets you some points, and so on. He's a very weird guy, but he really fits the strange aesthetic of the map, at least. I really like the special enemies of the map. The ghosts, aka witches, whatever you want to call them, that go and guard their mansion and try to get your points are super unique compared to most other special enemies in the game who just want to destroy your face with whatever weapon they have available. The ghosts take your money, and if you go through the house while the light is on and kill all the ghosts, you get a free perk, which you can actually manipulate with the time bomb. Speaking of the time bomb, it's a very double-edged sword but interesting item. You could go back and save yourself from a down or manipulate to get extra perks like I mentioned, but in multiplayer matches, you could get griefed to the point where you lose all your progress and restart back on round 1. Truly just a troll weapon that maybe was a mistake, maybe it should have been removed in multiplayer, but hey, who am I to judge? It looks awesome in steampunk. Speaking of steampunk, let's talk about the Paralyzer. The Paralyzer is actually a pretty awesome wonder weapon. It lets you fly around, it lets you stun zombies, and has infinite ammo, though you do have to recharge it. It really feels like what the jet gun was trying to do on Transit without any of its flaws. I guess the only thing you can't do with it is lay down, but who the hell is going prone in zombies anyway? Of course, let's talk about the Ray Gun Mark II. This is the map that introduced it, and it instantly became a fan favorite. 3-shot bursts, and it was extremely effective on Buried with how the zombies would line up. It was the perfect wonder weapon for this map, and it's fantastic that it got included on the later maps and the previous maps with the DLC. Buried also has a very unique sandbox feel to it. You could put wall guns where you want, nail down the box if you want. You can do a bunch of different things to make games different that you can't really do on other maps. There are also a couple of fun little secrets. You could shoot the dartboard in the bullseye with the ballistic knife, causing the piano to play in the bar, and you can go to the witch's house, tip her, and she'll give you a free perk, which is pretty cool and unique. You can also go through the maze for Pack-a-Punch, one of my preferred Pack-a-Punch methods, at least on Black Ops 2. You know, it's not as annoying as Mob of the Dead or Origins where it can get shut off, and definitely not as bad as Transit. So it's not so bad, but it does still require some work. Buried also introduced the best BO2 original perk in my opinion, Vulturade. You could kill zombies with green stink fumes on them to hide in those stink fumes and act like you just passed gas, making them run away. You can also pick up little bags as well as bullet casings to give you extra ammo and see the symbols of things through walls. It's honestly a little too overpowered on Buried when you just camp, but hey, I'll take it. Buried's not perfect, of course. Let's not pretend that it is. I'm not stupid. I'm only a little dumb. Buried is pretty easy, as I mentioned. You can just sit in the corner with the Ray Gun Mark II or the Paralyzer and the AN-94 even. Just shoot your way to a good high round. There's also a little bit of a lack of flexibility in how you play. There's not really any good training spots on Buried. I really struggle to think of one right now, even as I'm saying this. Maybe kinda in the area by the church and the witch's house, but not even that is very good. Maybe by the saloon. But no, Buried is definitely one of the most camp-heavy maps of all time, especially when coupled with Vulturade, like I said, which means if you're not really into camping and you're into training more with me, you might be a little annoyed, but it is what it is. There's also a bit of an issue with opening the map up quickly, because yeah, you could just spam the bank, but if you aren't a banker like myself, then you do have to keep getting booze bottles and get good old Arthur to bust them down with his face, and that is a bit time-consuming, especially compared to another map where you could just open doors. You probably can open a few doors like in the candy shop, but you can't get into the ghost house without Leroy, unless you have the Paralyzer, of course. But all in all, I think the pros of Buried massively outweigh the cons and make it well worthy of my #1 spot on Black Ops 2 Zombies. But like I said, what do you think? In the comments below, let me know what your favorite maps are, and let me know what you thought of my list. Let me know how stupid I am for putting Mob of the Dead so low in anything above Origins. Go on, I'm here for criticism. And if you want to see my thoughts on any other maps, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to give my unsolicited opinions.